What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 8 sleepers and studs.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I will go through each position and give you my top stud and sleeper pick for fantasy football Week 8. And if you stay to the very end after all my picks and after I show you the Draft Dashboard tools, I'll give you my super secret sleeper pick that no one's talking about. Okay guys, let's take a look at the quarterback position. My Week 8 quarterback stud is Tom Brady from the New England Patriots playing the Cleveland Browns, who have the 10th worst defense overall and give up the 9th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Tom Brady has averaged 21.3 fantasy points per game on the season. He only scored 13 fantasy points last week, and if you remember earlier in the year when he was coming off of a bad game, we said Tom Brady doesn't have back-to-back bad games. So I think this is a good bounce-back spot for Tom Brady. He's going to be about 7% owned, projected at 19.5 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $6,600 DraftKings salary and $1,300 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in that game, and they have the New England Patriots favored by 11.5. So this is a good matchup. It's a home game. It's a bounce-back game. So I like Tom Brady here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, my quarterback sleeper for NFL Week 8 is Derek Carr from the Oakland Raiders playing the Houston Texans, who have the 9th worst defense overall and give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Derek Carr averages 14 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 18 fantasy points last week. He gets about 2 rush attempts per game, and he's only going to be about 3% owned. He gets one of his wide receivers back this week. We'll get into that later. But Derek Carr is projected at 17 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $5,000 DraftKings salary and $1,900 more on FanDuel. So I like that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 51.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Oakland Raiders trailing by 6.5. So the Raiders should be behind in this game, forced to pass the ball. It's a nice matchup for Derek Carr. He's got his weapons back. So I like Derek Carr here versus the Houston Texans.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And then we'll send you $100 PayPal.
So it's that easy,
and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video.
So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. My Week 8 running back stud is Saquon Barkley from the New York Giants playing the Detroit Lions, who have the 5th worst defense overall and give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Saquon Barkley made his return from injury last week. He scored 17 fantasy points in that game. He had 18 rush attempts and 5 pass targets. So I think his volume is going to increase now that we know he's healthy. He's averaging 17.8 fantasy points per game on the season. He's going to be about 8% owned. He's on the field for 75% of the snaps and touches the ball 40% of that time. He's projected at 20 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $8,900 DraftKings salary and $300 less on FanDuel. So I like that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 49 points scored in this game, and they've got the New York Giants trailing by 6.5. But don't expect them to sit Saquon Barkley. He's going to be out there getting in work. So I like Saquon Barkley here versus the Detroit Lions. Okay, my running back sleeper pick is Austin Eckler from the LA Chargers playing the Chicago Bears, who have the 7th best defense overall, but they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Now we know Melvin Gordon is back, so Austin Eckler's numbers were much better without him, but he's still putting up pretty good numbers even with Melvin Gordon back. He scored 29 fantasy points last game. He only had 5 rush attempts, but he had 8 pass targets, so that's a total of 13 touches, and those pass targets are valuable. He's averaging 7.6 pass targets per game on the season and 9.9 rush attempts per game on the season. He's only going to be about 3% owned. He's projected at 13.7 fantasy points here in week 8. He's $5,900 DraftKings salary and $900 more on FanDuel. So he scored 29 and 23 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games, and that was with Melvin Gordon back. He's getting a ton of pass targets. He's still getting some rush attempts, but Melvin Gordon back is scaring people away from this play. And then Vegas has this as a low-scoring game. Only 41 points projected to be scored in this game, with the Chargers trailing by 3.5. But you got a talented player with a low salary and low ownership, so I like Austin Eckler here versus the Chicago Bears. Okay guys, if you're getting any value from this video, please hit that red subscribe button. We put out new fantasy football videos every day. So if you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification, you won't miss out on any of our new fantasy football videos. Tons of free stuff coming your way. It only takes a second, and it helps us push out more fantasy football content for you guys to consume each and every day. It's because of you subscribers that make this possible. So thank you for supporting this channel. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My NFL Week 8 wide receiver stud is DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans, playing the Oakland Raiders, who have the 3rd worst defense overall and give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins averages 17.8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 29 fantasy points last week off of 12 pass targets. He's averaging 9.7 pass targets per game, and he's going to be about 22% owned. He's on the field for 97% of the snaps. He's projected at 21.3 fantasy points here in week 8. He's $8,100 DraftKings salary and $100 more on FanDuel. This is a home game for Hopkins. Vegas thinks there's going to be 51.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Houston Texans favored by 6.5. So I like DeAndre Hopkins here versus the Oakland Raiders. My sleeper pick at the wide receiver position is Tyrell Williams from the Oakland Raiders, playing the Houston Texans, who have the 9th worst defense overall and give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Tyrell Williams has averaged 16.4 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 6 pass targets per game. He's only going to be about 1% owned. He's on the field for 91% of the snaps, and the low ownership is because he's coming back from injury this week. He missed 2 weeks out with injury, but he's back fully healthy now. He's going to start this game. He should get his same volume, and he's only $5,500 DraftKings salary and $400 more on FanDuel, projected at 11.2 fantasy points here in week 8. We got this high scoring game. Vegas thinks there's going to be 51.5 points scored in this game. They've got the Oakland Raiders trailing by 6.5. So that's a passing game script for Derek Carr and Tyrell Williams. Tyrell Williams likes to go deep, so he's a great fantasy player. He's got a huge ceiling, and he's got a great matchup, so I like Tyrell Williams here versus the Houston Texans.
Real quick guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL, MLB is still going, NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the tight end position. My Week 8 tight end stud is Darren Waller from the Oakland Raiders playing the Houston Texans. So we just covered this game, so we know the Houston Texans have the 9th worst defense overall, and they've been pretty good against tight ends. But Darren Waller is averaging 18.5 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 35 fantasy points last week off of 8 pass targets. He's averaging 8.3 pass targets per game on the season. He's going to be about 21% owned. He's on the field for 91% of the snaps, and he's projected at 14.4 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $5,900 DraftKings salary and $900 more on FanDuel. So we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 51.5 points scored in this game. So that's a high game total. The Oakland Raiders trailing by 6.5. So Derek Carr should need to pass the ball because they're going to be playing from behind. So Darren Waller and Tyrell Williams, those are 2 big targets he's going to go to this game. I think they all can have good fantasy days. This is a good stack if you want to get risky, or you could play either or. But I like Darren Waller here versus the Houston Texans. My sleeper pick at the tight end position is Gerald Everett from the LA Rams playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 6th worst defense overall, and they're pretty good against opposing tight ends. But Gerald Everett is averaging 9.6 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's getting about 6 pass targets per game. But the last 3 weeks, he's had 26 pass targets, so he's getting a ton of volume right now. And he's only going to be about 1% owned. He's on the field for 66% of the snaps. He's projected at 9.5 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $4,300 DraftKings salary and $1,800 more on FanDuel. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Rams favored by 12.5. So they think the Rams are going to do most of the scoring in this one. This is a home game, and he should do pretty well if that volume keeps up. So I like Gerald Everett here versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video, or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. You've unlocked the bonus content.
My super secret sleeper pick is Corey Davis from the Tennessee Titans playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Corey Davis has averaged 9.4 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting about 5 pass targets per game, but he got 7 pass targets last game and put up 20 fantasy points. He's only going to be about 2% owned. He's projected at 11.9 fantasy points here in Week 8. He's $4,400 DraftKings salary and $1,100 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 46 points scored in this game, and they have the Tennessee Titans favored by 3. This is a home game. It's a nice value play with low ownership, so I like Corey Davis here versus the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.
Do you want more fantasy football picks? Check out the video linked right in the middle of the screen. If you got any value from this video, please tap that subscribe button before you get out of here, and ring that bell notification so you won't miss our daily fantasy football uploads. We're putting out new videos every day, so I don't want you guys to miss any of our free content.